Ex-Red Bull team boss Christian Horner could make a shock comeback to Formula 1 with Aston Martin. Horner has been out of the F1 paddock ever since he was sacked by Red Bull after the British Grand Prix in July. But from the moment he was pushed aside via a power struggle within Red Bull, it was clear there was still unfinished business for Horner in F1. So as part of the $100 million severance settlement that he sorted with Red Bull, it was agreed that he could return to work for another F1 team as early as the first half of 2026. Now, off the back of discussions with several teams, it's emerged that he's a front-running candidate to be slotted in at Aston Martin as part of a major shake-up. But before we get into Horner's potential return, first, let's dig into why a change is needed. The Horner possibility is opened up because Aston Martin's team principal Andy Cowell is about to be moved aside after little more than 12 months in the job. Cowell only arrived at Aston Martin in October last year as its group CEO, having been signed off the back of the monumental success he'd had as head of the Mercedes F1 engine project until 2020. Cowell's knowledge of what a top-line organisation needed to become successful in F1 made him an attractive target for Aston Martin owner Lawrence Stroll, who has invested heavily in the team in the hope of making it world champion. And it didn't take long in the job for Cowell to make some tough calls, as he got to grips with what wasn't working at the team and where changes needed to be made. In November 2024, it was announced that Aston Martin technical director Dan Fallows would be leaving his position amid an underwhelming season. Then, a couple of months later, in January 2025, Cowell undertook a wider restructuring of the entire team. He moved previous team boss Mike Crack to a new Chief Trackside Officer role, as he himself assumed the team principal role. Cowell also introduced an all-new reporting structure that separated the trackside and factory teams more. Cowell's belief was that Aston Martin was being held back by an element of confusion between factory roles and those at the track, with people dragged too much into responsibilities for both. The changes were all aimed at ensuring Aston Martin was as well prepared as possible for the arrival of design genius Adrian Newey, who started working for the team in March this year. But it did not take long for Newey to start voicing his opinion, that Aston Martin was not where it needed to be if it was going to get itself to the front of the field. Newey quickly told Aston Martin and Cowell where he felt things were wrong, but also by how much they were wrong. In Monaco in May, Newey spoke about some of Aston Martin's tools being weak, including its driver-in-the-loop simulator. He said this was a major handicap because the simulator is now such an important research and development tool in helping drive an F1 team forwards. Aston Martin set about trying to improve the tools, and even lured one of Newey's former Red Bull lieutenants Giles Wood back to F1 as its new simulation and vehicle modelling director to help get on top of things. There have been other more recent changes too, as part of a refocus of the team's priorities, as it takes on board the feedback from Newey and newly appointed Chief Technical Officer Enrique Cardile. At the recent Brazilian Grand Prix, it emerged that Aston Martin's aerodynamics director Eric Blandin will leave his role at the F1 team as part of a wider reshuffle ahead of the 2026 season. Blandin was one of around 7 senior figures being pushed out as part of the major shake-up aimed at helping take Aston Martin in the direction Newey wanted. But as Newey's influence and vocal desire for change increased, we believe that differences of opinion emerged with Cowell about what was needed to be done and how things should progress. And we understand that the lack of consensus between them made it untenable for Cowell to continue in his role, as it was clear Aston Martin would only succeed if its senior management was completely in agreement with the direction needed. Sources suggest that it has been agreed that Cowell will step away into a role that is more focused on his original expertise of powertrains. And as Aston Martin enters a new works engine deal with Honda, having somebody like Cowell leading that integration could be incredibly valuable.
Today's video is brought to you by Rovo, your AI teammate from Atlassian. Rovo connects knowledge, people and workflows so teams can work smarter and move faster. It helps people find answers, make decisions and automate work securely and with context through search, chat, agents and studio. Rovo runs on the Teamwork Graph, Atlassian's intelligent layer that unifies data across all of your first and third-party apps so no knowledge gets left behind, and so you always get personalised AI insights from day one. And the best news? It's already built into Jira, Confluence and Jira Service Management paid subscriptions, so the power of Rovo is already at your fingertips. Know the feeling when AI turns from tool to teammate. If you Rovo, you know. Discover Rovo, AI that knows your business, powered by Atlassian. Get started at ROV, as in victory, o.com today.
While Cowell's future seems to have been decided, just who exactly his replacement will be isn't yet clear. What we do know is Stroll Sr. wants a heavy hitter to come in, to push the team forward and help capitalise on the opportunity it has with Newey on board. And this is where Horner has emerged as one of the leading candidates for the job, but he is not the only one in the frame. Two potential candidates have already ruled themselves out, despite being understood to have been on Stroll's radar. One of them is former Aston Martin CEO and ex-McLaren team boss, Martin Whitmarsh. He had been Aston's group CEO from 2021 to 2024 before being replaced by Cowell. Despite being approached by Stroll, Whitmarsh is understood to have shown no interest in making a return to the team. Someone else who has been linked as a potential target, but is not going anywhere, is Audi COO Mattia Binotto. The former Ferrari team principal is fully committed to where he is right now, so he has no desire to make a switch. This leaves two chief contenders in the frame, who are Horner and Andreas Seidl, the former McLaren team principal. In terms of simplicity of getting a deal across the line, and a bit more on that later, Seidl is a logical choice. The German is a former team principal of Porsche's LMP1 program and was team boss at McLaren from 2019 until the end of 2022, after which he switched to the Sauber team to become its CEO. It had been intended that Seidl would help guide Sauber in that transition phase into its new Audi era, and in March 2024 it was announced that he was becoming the manufacturer's F1 CEO too. But just 4 months later, Seidl was removed from his role in the wake of an internal power struggle at the operation between himself and Audi representative Oliver Hoffmann. Ever since departing the Audi project, Seidl has been sat on the F1 sidelines, and would be someone able to be slotted in quite quickly at Aston Martin. He also has experience of building up projects, having put in place changes at McLaren during his tenure that helped lift the operation from a midfield contender to being on a path to become world champion under his successor Andrea Stella. While Seidl could be easily slotted in, Horner would almost certainly want a different kind of role. Since Horner left Red Bull, it's been clear he's not interested in simply working for someone else. He thinks that to achieve success in F1, you need to be in control of all the elements of an operation. There have been some suggestions too that he is determined to only return if there is some form of ownership involved. This is why he has been pondering with investors about whether to go it alone and set up a 12th team from scratch, or whether he is better off putting together a bid that could involve equity in a current F1 operation. The shareholding possibility has put Horner in the frame at both Alpine and Aston Martin. From Aston Martin's perspective, it is obvious what Horner's attraction would be. He has experience and track record to assume the role of both team principal and CEO, having achieved multiple world championships with Red Bull during his 2 decades at the squad. There would be a renewal of some past relationships too. Horner knows Honda well, having worked with it when it was powering Red Bull to numerous title successes. Horner would also work with Newey again too, and has vast experience of knowing how to both work with him and get the best out of him. The pair became a formidable force at Red Bull. And while it's understood that some personal friction between them last year set the ball rolling for Newey's departure from Red Bull, it's believed their relationship has warmed again since then, and a reunion would not be impossible. Another factor that could well be sitting at the back of Stroll's mind is that Horner could offer a direct personal link in making Aston Martin best placed to try and lure Verstappen from Red Bull in the long term, especially if Aston Martin's 2026 Newey designed car shows promise. However, a potential issue that needs resolving is whether Horner will want some equity in the team and how much overall control he would be given. Right now, no decision has been made by either Aston Martin nor the main candidates about what they plan to do, but it is a situation that is expected to move fast. So all eyes are on Horner once again as he ponders his own route back to Formula 1.